New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Reverend Robert with you here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought today on Tuesday, the 17th of December. Always a good time to be with you. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you being here. And I think you all know that we have a very, very special guest here with us today. And so we're going to let go of all the formalities and get right into it. Let me introduce you. Marianne Williamson is here with us. She, for more than 4 decades, Marianne Williamson has been a leader of spiritual progressive circles. She's the author of 16 books, 4 of which have been a #1 bestseller, New York Times bestsellers. A quote from her mega bestseller, A Return to Love: "Our deepest fear is not that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure," is considered an anthem for a contemporary generation of seekers. Her other bestsellers include A Woman's Worth, The Law of Divine Compensation, Tears to Triumph, and The Gift of Change. With her books and online classes, she has taught millions of people the universal spiritual principles at the heart of miracle-minded thinking. Williamson originally founded the Project Angel Food, a nonprofit organization that has delivered more than 18 million meals to ill and dying homebound patients in the Los Angeles area since 1989. The group was created to help people suffering from the ravages of HIV and AIDS. She's also worked throughout her career on poverty, anti-hunger, and racial reconciliation issues. In 2004, she co-founded the Peace Alliance and supported the creation of a U.S. Department of Peace, all the way back in the Dennis Kucinich days, if I remember correctly. Her latest book, Mystic Jesus, The Mind of Love, is available online and at bookstores everywhere. And I just want to say, we had the pleasure to be together back at the Parliament of World Religions about a year and a half ago. The first time we had a chance to meet and sit and speak, and that was your first appearance on New Thought Media Network. We're so grateful you've been able to come back and join us again. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here with you guys. I'm honored, and I look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it should be. And you know, just to start right in, I love the title, The Mystic Jesus, The Mind of Love, because it speaks very poignant to the science of mind, which is the teachings that we're ministers in. And the thing I want to ask right off the bat is that in the book you explore this esoteric view of Jesus' teachings and how it is alive today. And so I'm just curious, what inspired you to approach Jesus from this mystical side or perspective, and how do you think it's going to resonate with readers given this divide we have now in some ways with traditional Christianity and some of the other ways of viewing Jesus's life?
Well, I am a student of A Course in Miracles, and I write books about the Course, and I've taught classes. That's what my 40-year career has been. And this book is about Jesus within the context of A Course in Miracles. And we're taught as students of the Course that this material actually comes from him. You don't have to believe that in order to practice the principles, but there's a lot of first person in the Course, so it makes clear who these words come from. There has been, I don't know if you've ever read the book, an incredible book that came out years ago called The Gnostic Gospels by Elaine Pagels, where
Yes.
she talks about the history of Christendom. And even though when we think of the Christian religion now, we think of the ecclesiastic church, we think of the institution, we think of dogma, we think of doctrine, and we think of the very traditional ways that certain so-called Christian terms are interpreted. However, there has been from the very earliest days of Christendom, the mystical path, just like there's the Kabbalah, which is the mystical path of Judaism. There's Sufism, a mystical path within Islam. All the great religious systems have the mystical piece in the center. And there are universal spiritual themes that actually the Course in Miracles is based on. So from the position of the Christian mystics, Saint Teresa of Avila and Teilhard de Chardin and so forth, the discovery of the Nag Hammadi manuscripts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, there has always been this lineage of the connection to God, the connection to Jesus, the connection to the Holy Spirit, not being brokered by an external institution, but rather taking place within our hearts. Now, that's not in any way to disparage, undermine, or show any disrespect for the ecclesiastic religion of Christianity or the interpretations thereof. But it is to say that certainly for those of us who are students of the Course in Miracles, embracing what you might think of as a Christ-centered philosophical and psychological outlook does not involve a conversion to the Christian church. It does not recognize the right of any institution to monopolize Jesus or the meaning of Jesus. And therefore, when I talk about the mystic Jesus, I'm talking about an internal, spiritual, and psychological understanding and connection to him that many people find within the confines of organized Christianity, but which many of us do not. The Course in Miracles says that religion and psychotherapy at their peak are the same thing. And we're living at a time on the planet, obviously, when we're rethinking everything. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Repent, repense, rethink. And I think that when Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world, he meant it's in your psyche, it's in your mind. That's where his kingdom is. It's in your mind. And the Course in Miracles says that God is an idea. God is mind, and we are ideas in the mind of God. So when you were talking about New Thought, of course, A Course in Miracles, I think I would think that you would agree that the Course in Miracles is part of a New Thought interpretation of this, really not just Jesus or Christ-centered philosophy, but really all religious truth.
Exactly. And I think that is so well put, because from our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, his whole idea when religious science or science of mind was started, his idea was to look for the golden thread that wove its way through all the teachings of a divine entity.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That is at the essence.
Yeah, right. And that's what the Course says as well. This is not a religion. It is a psychological mind training based on universal spiritual themes. That which has caused so much separation, i.e. religion. Part of the tragic irony there, of course, is that if you look at the deeper truths within all the great religions, you see these common themes.
That's what I've always loved about New Thought is we look for those common themes. Let's give a couple of quick shout outs before our next question. Dear Shay, yes, you've been hearing we're having a special guest for a while now, so thanks for being tuned in today. Reverend Chris, good to hear from you as well, sir. We're excited that Marianne's with us here as well. And Reverend Savannah Noel. Rev Savvy, good to see you. Trust you're holding down the Pacific Northwest. Anyone else that's out there, if you want, feel free to chime along, chat along, drop a comment, ask a question, join in the conversation with us as we go here today. Again, Marianne, I want to thank you for being here, because I really enjoyed this book in a number of ways. And most especially because, well, I guess the way I like to say it, Jesus and I have never exactly been on best buds. It wasn't how I was brought up. It wasn't what brought me to New Thought. It wasn't any of that. And I've heard the phrase more often enough that, the course comes to you when you're ready, more than and in this, and having studied some of your material and read your other books, and this really opened up a whole new, it felt like, relationship with me. I will also say I've been watching The Chosen over the last few years as well. So there's this combination and a really neat perspective. And that's what I was hoping to explore a little bit is, in the book, you really discuss the importance of the modern context, of how we're bringing Jesus's teachings to a modern context. And when people look at the world today, we can look at what happened in Wisconsin yesterday. We can look at what's happening in all of the various social aspects, from climate change to civil unrest to outbreaks of violence when you least expect it, or in some of those places. And how do you see Jesus's teachings helping us to face the challenges of today?
Love one another. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy might. That's if we do it, it works. If we don't do it, it doesn't work. What's your goal here? Loving your children, or profits for the National Gun Association and gun manufacturers? What's your goal here? Loving and reverence and proper stewardship of the earth, or profits for big oil companies? What's your goal here? Love among the nations and among the peoples of the world, or more money and more profit made for military industrial contractors? Let's stop pretending that we don't know what's going on here. I think that that's really what's happening on the planet today. Why does it seem, somebody asked me on a podcast earlier today, why does it seem like fear is winning? Because we're putting our resources into fear. We're investing in fear. We invest in war more than we invest in peace. Yeah. And we invest in destroying the earth more than we just invest in repairing the earth. So we've got to stop pretending like, I don't know why all this is happening. The reason all this is happening is because human beings are so powerful with every thought we think. And we have these accumulated thoughts that brute force is power. We have these accumulated thoughts that you have to dominate other people or you won't be safe. We have these accumulated layers of wrong-minded, loveless thinking. And that is why we have the world we have. And from not just the course perspective, but also any new thought perspective, the world's not going to change until our thinking changes, because our thinking is the level of cause. That's what determines our behavior. Right now, we're on a very destructive course because loveless thinking is still powerful thinking. The Course in Miracles says you are totally at choice what to think, but one thing you don't have a choice about is how powerful your thoughts are. So everybody wake up and know that if we continue the way we are, we will continue in the direction we're in, and no thinking adult thinks that that's a good thing. And the Course in Miracles says salvation, and obviously from this perspective, salvation just means being saved from your own insane thoughts, means considering the possibility there might be a better way. And that's what I think you do what you do. I do what I all do in the same thing. It's to say to people, we can do this life differently. We can think differently. We can behave differently, and then we'll have a different world.
There's I forget which chapter, but you make a very good point on that exact thing where you talk about, reality is we are projecting our lives on like a screen, a movie projector onto the screen of reality, something to that effect. And that as we continue to have these thoughts, we will continue to project this movie, this drama, this horror, if you will, onto the screens of reality. And if we want to change that, then we need to change the real that's going in our mind to see a new reality, to see a new projection. And I love that.
Absolutely. You know, the Course in Miracles says God created the law of cause and effect for our protection. And God himself, once he's created something, there's no changing it. He's not going to change the law of cause and effect. Every thought you think, the Course says, will create form on some level. If you don't like what's projected out there on the screen, you can't go up to the screen and try to change the plot of the film. It's just a projection of imagery.
Right.
You were created in the image, i.e. imagination, i.e. mind of God. And that's the only place where you can change what's happening on the screen. That's why the Course in Miracles says God's greatest gift that he gave you with which to change the world is your ability to change your mind about the world. And until we do, we will continue in the direction we are. And the Course in Miracles says there's a limit beyond which the Son of God cannot miscreate. And we're miscreating all over the place. And I think people are waking up to the realization this cannot go on forever. It's kind of like when you have a friend who's an alcoholic or a drug addict, and you watch it getting worse, and you watch it getting worse, and you watch it getting worse, and you start talking to your other friends, we maybe should have an intervention, or there's no guarantee that they won't kill themselves. And I think people are having that wake up about democracy, having that wake up about the life of the species on the earth. We need to stage an intervention.
Yeah, and that leads me to this idea, this question that I thought about as we were reading the book, in that, you know, from a mystical perspective, the idea of mysticism is this direct experience and connection with the higher power, with God, with the divine, however people choose to resonate with that. So when we look at the life of Jesus, you know, you missed somewhere in the book, you talk about this whole thing of metaphors, and how the deepest teachings are in these metaphors that give you the opportunity to put yourself or see yourself in that story that's being projected, so that you can have this mystical experience of directness. How do you think we can start trying to teach, example people to be able to do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, from a Course in Miracles perspective, none of this is just metaphor. The Course says, if you treat this stuff as metaphors or symbols or child's play, that'll be the effect it has on your life. If you treat it as the power that rules universes, then so shall it be for you. Mm-hmm. So it's not just a connection to the higher power. And I think that this is the piece in the Course in Miracles that made all the difference in my life. I'm not saying that it's not elsewhere, but it was when I read the Course in Miracles that I got it. And that's that there is no separation between my connection to God or higher power and my connection to other people. Mm-hmm. I can't talk about how I want to be connected with God, but be judging other people, blaming other people, withholding forgiveness, withholding my love. If you're attacking others, once you realize, you know, this is an example of these traditional terms used so differently. The one here is, there is only one begotten Son. So from a traditional perspective, there's only one begotten Son. Jesus is the only begotten Son. From a Course in Miracles metaphysical perspective, it means there's only one of us here. On the level of spirit, I mean, on the level of body, I'm in DC, you're in Denver. But on the level of spirit, there's no place where you stop and I start. Mm-hmm. So if I attack you, I'm attacking myself literally. The only power is the power of thought. So I can't be connected with my higher power and feel the peace of God if I'm attacking you. So there's nothing metaphoric about that.
Yeah.
And not only is there nothing metaphoric about it, it's all, and this is the part that is so radical, and that I'm sorry to say, the radicalism of this took me too long to understand. I had already written books about this stuff before it hit me like a brick in the forehead on the level that it should have. Whoever you're with at the moment, whatever situation you're in at the moment. In this one, it's you and me. Now, I hope you're feeling that we're all wishing each other well. I hope that both of you do well. I get from you, you hope I do well. So life works when you're really showing up your best and in support of other people. But we all know life's not always like that. Right. And if people show up in any situation with negativity, I don't want to be here, what can I get from this? Life's very different. It's a whole different energy. It's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different experience for everyone. And once again, there's nothing metaphoric about that at all. Now, within that space, and that's the miraculous aspect of it, all that the three of us have to do is show up and try to do our best and try to be there so that other people can do their best too. Then the miracle is you don't even know who's going to hear it. You don't know what aha might happen in anybody who happens to be listening. And that's the miraculous nature of the world. But if we come in with any other kind of thought, then it's a whole different experience. And that's it right there. That's it. This situation, this person, this moment, it's all here. And like I said, very, very practical. Nothing metaphoric about it at all.
Yeah. I love that. And it's in my own work and in my prayer, one of the things that I find that just keeps coming back is to let go of everything that it may have taken to be in this moment, so I may be in this moment, so I may be the presence of the divine, of love and light in whatever's about to happen. And to me, it's a really a deep sense of trust that what is working out is what is working out. And I keep getting that essence of the and I believe it comes from the 12-step movement first, but it was introduced to me through the words of Johnny Coleman. It works if you work it. And I feel we keep coming back to that essence in this conversation, that as those of the light, as those that call themselves light workers or new thoughters or mystics or visionaries or whatever name and a cloak we want to wear, we've got to be 100% committed to seeing the face of the divine in everyone and everything that's in front of us.
You know, the word discipline and the word disciple come from the same root. To be a disciple of Christ, which is the loving thought, the mind of love. To be a disciple is to discipline yourself. And, you know, you say we have to be 100% committed, but life is hard. Truth is simple, but life is complicated. None of us are there 24/7. I mean, your enlightened masters are. We all fall off the spiritual wagon sometimes. I'll give you an example. You guys are being nice to me. I hope you feel I'm being nice to you. But what if one of us was being really obnoxious? If one of us or two of us was being really obnoxious, then somebody would have a hard time practicing all this, right? Because, right? You get defensive, you get reactive, etc. So we have to be 100% committed, but I think we also on the path have to be merciful towards ourselves and knowing that the lessons keep coming. Like, we don't grow if every situation is one in which it's easy to be within the comfort zone that we already know. You know, it's like a kid at school. You know, you got that lesson, now a little harder one is coming. So the lessons keep coming that always involve the temptation to fall back into the ego default positions of fear and victimhood and failure to take responsibility and all of the things that we all know so well.
And you know, that's a great point. And just tying that back to the oneness of God, like when you said that the only begotten Son is the oneness of all of us, right? That is the oneness. And it made me think about one of the things Ernest Holmes says right at the beginning of the Science of Mind textbook, says he looks forward to the day when science and religion walk hand in hand from the visible into the invisible. And so when we were in school, we studied quantum physics, which speaks to that oneness, this entanglement of the one spirit, this inseparable communication that's always there. But if you block it, as you said, if you do things to keep it from having a steady flow, it's not the flow itself that's missing, it's you're not putting yourself in alignment with that. And so, you know, when and that leads to the whole thing of practice. How, you know, just practicing this is where the challenge comes in, the discipline.
You know, I don't know how it is for you guys, but for me, one of the places where I'm tempted into ego is if a quantum physicist says it, it's considered profound. If I say it, it's considered kooky and woo-woo. It's the same damn thing.
Yep.
So science is coming along. Science is coming along and now verifying, according to the Western medical scientific tradition, verifying what we have been taught has been the wisdom of the ages.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I do hear that too.
Then is now. Then is now.
So our friend Shay has a question based on something we've said here. So what do you do in a group setting when someone is being obnoxious? There's always that one person.
Okay. So, and I think that was a minister who asked, right?
No, I don't believe she's a minister.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
hangs out around the network.
Okay. So first of all, if somebody's being obnoxious, they're on the level of the personality, because the soul is never obnoxious. So they're on the level of the personality, which means of their ego. Our temptation is to respond on that same level. Won't work. They've fallen asleep to who they are, but if we're perceiving them according to their behavior as it's mistaken as an obnoxious, we're falling asleep to who we are. Plus, by falling asleep to who they are, we are bypassing our capacity to awaken them. So the Course in Miracles says the primary responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the atonement for himself. So you go back into your own sweet spot, your own quiet, be still and know. Forgiveness means that you are going to extend your perception beyond what the physical senses perceive to what the heart knows to be true. So you look at that person, you're not stupid, you're a human being, you hear their obnoxiousness, you see the obnoxiousness on their face. Simply know, pray in that moment for help, and you're having a second set of eyes and seeing the truth in them. If you speak to the personality within them, you will not help. Speak to the Christ within them. Obviously, that's not the words that you say. Once you get into that place, you will know what to do. It might even be it might even be silence. It might even be just the quality of your silence. But they need to be, it's like a rabid dog, just don't get in there with it. Go into your silence. Go into your silence. And it becomes like my mother once told me, I was making chili. I remember I was living in New Mexico. My mom was in Texas. Mommy, I'm making this chili. People are coming over, and there is, I put too much cayenne pepper in it, and it's too hot. What should I do? She said, get a raw potato, and you put a raw potato in it, and it will suck out the cayenne pepper. So the mind of Christ will suck out the craziness. Okay. I'll give you an example. When I asked if this was a minister, I've been out doing what I do for over 40 years, and I know you guys have been at it a while yourselves. Sometimes there are people in the room, and I have had it happen twice. And when you're in work such as we do, you're not only the guardian of the emotional safety in the room, you could even be the guardian of physical safety in the room. There have been a couple times somebody stands up and they're more than obnoxious. They're obviously sort of out of their minds, which in today's world scares people. And I remember one incident, but I've had it happen, the essence of this more than once. I see the people in their best of intentions, who were the people guarding the space, going to take that person and kicking them out. That's the worst thing to do in today's world. That person could get a gun and come back. That's the last thing you do. Rather, and I've seen, and the whole room is with you, because the whole room sees what just happened, and the whole room looks back at you. And it's unbelievable, because the leader of the room sort of models. Right? So the leader of the room, who's smart and miracle minded, is not going to say, that person has to leave now. Not in a case like that. And the whole room will model you getting very deep and very quiet. And you feel the Holy Spirit take you onto the level of frequency that person is, and the whole room will join with you in that. And the embrace of that person's true self replaces the energy of fear that was aroused by their not being their true self. Right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you talk to that person from that place, and it works.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the miracle. You
Yeah.
speak to the truth in people, even if they themselves are not in touch with that. Now, if you're in a room and somebody's being obnoxious, it's not like boundaries are never acceptable. It's not like love will never say no, because sometimes love does say no. But if you don't first, one of the lessons in the course is let all things be exactly as they are. You have no power to change people until you first go into that place where they can feel that you accept them exactly as they are. And then within that, you can make it very clear that this behavior isn't acceptable, whatever, but first you have to join with them. And once again, that goes back to what we're talking about. To be in touch with God is to be in touch with people. Like in that line in Les Mis, to love another person is to see the face of God.
Yeah.
So that person might be obnoxious, but the soul is never obnoxious. Speak to the truth of who they are. All minds are joined. And if you're willing to see the truth of who they are, they will feel that validation.
Yeah, you set a point there. I'm a starving musician. I quit too soon, but I still love music. And that resonant sound, that resonant tone is what I hear. One of the things you're saying about when someone drops to that level, whatever the level is, you have to first resonate with that tone to figure out where we are so you can raise the vibration, or you raise the octave, or you raise, the pitch.
Absolutely.
So that
Absolutely.
now we come from here, we go up here, and now we can make
Exactly
beautiful
right.
music, as you say.
Absolutely correct. That same thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that.
And it feels to me like we're, in many ways, we're not talking about the book, but we're talking about the book.
Yeah.
Because in the book you emphasize the mystical, and the mysticism often emphasizes that direct experience, being in the room and getting still, more than just, oh, I know they're just being God over there, but actually practicing being in the real life of it all.
Well, once again, it has to do with the person that you're with. You can't have a relationship with God separate from your relationship with people. Now, where Jesus comes in, he's like the universal principle. He's the universal frequency, right? So one of the things, for instance, that would be very powerful in a moment like that, in your minds, see Jesus with his arms around that person. The Holy Spirit works through our subconscious mind. So seeing Jesus with his arms around a person, if you teach school, see Jesus walking through the hallways every morning, see Jesus walking through your office building. The mind, the Course in Miracles says, the very word reminds the mind of the relationship between the Father and the Son.
Yeah.
So it's a psychological technique.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Jesus is a psychological technique.
Yeah. And that I wrote something that I was reading the book and about the transformative power of Jesus being in this mystical space. And so when I thought about that, I'm thinking about, okay, when Jesus turned the water into wine, whether you believe that or not, it was a act of transformation. When he turned the fishes and loaves into more, when he asked the disciples to step out of the boat onto the water, when he goes through all these things, it is a manner of being transformed in this mystical way. And I love the way you make the point in the book on a miracle is a change in perspective or perception, or as you said earlier, allowing more of our normal five senses to be reading the information so that we see things that are always there, but our focus is out. Our ability to fully see is out. And so I really love that looking at Jesus as this transformative mantra, if you will.
from a Course perspective, because Jesus, he says in the Course, and I quote this at the beginning of the book, he says, I don't have anything you don't have. The only difference between us is I don't have anything else. I am in a state that is only potential in you. So the idea here is that Jesus is the full actualization of the human being, the divine potential that exists within us all. When we have expanded into the total truth of who we are liberated from false beliefs regarding the molecular structure of the universe. Time and space no longer imprison us. So we get the fishes are the reality, not the loaves. We get the wine as the reality, not the water. We get walking on the water as the reality, not being dragged down by gravity.
Yeah.
So the Course in Miracles says that when you think the water is more important than the wine, you are denying spiritual sight. You are keeping yourself within the confines of the three dimensions. Now, what Jesus is, the Course says, is someone who lives within these three dimensions, but he thought the thoughts of heaven. And because he thought the thoughts of the ultimate reality, then whenever he was living grounded in this world of lower reality, it just transformed to meet him. So the Course says the miracle is a shift in in self-perception from body identification to spirit identification. If I just think of myself as a body and my resume and my birth and my death and what people think about me and where I've gotten it right and where I've gotten it wrong, I'm imprisoning myself. But if I realize, well, there's a world beyond this one, there's a truer truth in this, then my knowing that, my conviction that that is true makes situations literally transform in my presence. And the image I use in the book, I talk about Cinderella and the fairy godmother, who is, fairy tales are just a way the children are taught metaphysics. And so the fairy godmother is the Holy Spirit. She has a wand, as all the wizards do. Moses has a rod. When we go like this is our wand. My thinking connected to the higher. That's your wand. And the Course in Miracles defines light as understanding. So Cinderella has on rags. She touches the rags with her wand. They turn into a ball gown. She touches the mice. They turn into coachmen. She touches the pumpkin. It turns into a coach. Because she put her light on them and they transformed. The light of understanding is what's really going on here. What's really going on here is that I have God's work to do, and that's all my only goal. And when you have that higher consciousness, then if there's something keeping you from going to the wherever you need to go, a seat will just happen to open up on the plane. The train will just happen to stop by your town. Somebody will say, I'm driving to Boston. You want to come with me? And you go, oh, how could that have happened? You know exactly how that happened. Your mind was that you are about your Father's work and you want to be fully available to help in whatever way the universe would have you help. And it just happened to be in Boston by 8. And so.
And there you have it, right? I love it. I love it.
You remind me of a trip to Vancouver and a gate agent that told me there was no way I was getting on a plane. But she said it in a way that I didn't quite understand her, and I'm sorry. And I was like, I'm sorry, I don't know what you mean by that. And she looked at me, she goes, it means you could be a miracle if you get on that plane. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool. I could do miracles. And I had only found New Thought. I was in this maybe a year or something, right? I was green behind the ears. I was like, oh, that's cool. We could do miracles. And I walked across to the other side of the concourse. I sat down and I listened for the call signs on this plane. And then I listened to them call for somebody to come to the desk. And then 5 minutes later, they called for that person's name to come to the desk again. And then they gave him a third call. And then they called my name and told me that there was a seat on the plane for me because the other guy never showed up.
Hello. But that, what, I want to tell you something. The Course in Miracles, miracles arise from conviction. You used your word. Yeah. You stated it. That's brilliant. That's beautiful.
We can do miracles. Folks, we are going to do some miracles of some sort here today. But first, we're going to say thank you to some of our sponsors and our organizational donors. Give Marianne a chance to take a sip of water and a breath here. But we got a little bit more time coming up after this. So stay tuned, stay with us. Let your friends and family know what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series, January 31st through April 4th. Embrace nonviolence every day with our 64 unique video meditations. Join us at 6 a.m. Mountain Time or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. Featuring a collection of New Thought voices, the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series. Only on New Thought Media Network, January 31st through April 4th.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring. And we're back with more of New Thought today here on the New Thought Media Network. My brother, Reverend LZ, and I, and our very special guest, Marianne Williamson, live here on a Tuesday afternoon. So, Marianne, one of the questions that came to me kind of like early this morning, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but I think it's probably a simple one. What are you reading? Like, what books are captivating you and capturing you, and what's on your nightstand as far as what are you reading right now in your life, in your ministry?
I love memoirs. And the model, Elle Macpherson, sent me her memoir. And I'm reading it and enjoying it very, very much. Something about reading before I go to bed at night. The other book that I'm still in the middle of that I had not finished yet is Lincoln on Leadership. So I'm reading Lincoln on Leadership and also a book called Elle. A book, you know, I went through, as you know, I ran for president, and my season of healing was pretty deep. There was a lot to heal from. There was a book that I read towards the end of that phase that was not overtly spiritual, but which I highly recommend, and it's called "The Obstacle Is the Way." Do you know about that book?
No.
By a man named Ryan Holiday. I have since learned that he's apparently very popular and all this kind of stuff. I didn't know about his work. He works on, his stuff is based on Stoic philosophy. Apparently it's a very popular book, The Obstacle Is the Way. It's so good because what I got from that book is, we all know you have to go through the obstacle. We know you have to get above the obstacle. But the dimension of all that he added is that there is something about what you go through and what you learn from being in the midst of the challenging obstacle that actually sets you up for the bigger win on the other side of it. And he actually talks about people like Thomas Edison, for instance, people who went through terrible challenges and obstacles and then had their biggest win afterwards because of what they learned going through it. And that book was very, very helpful to me. It's not overtly spiritual, but it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, and you know, I find those books are sometimes the most spiritual, because when you can read those books and tap in, it for me, it gives me that metaphysical perspective of someone living this stuff, a direct experience of how you go through it.
Yeah, because
And
people such as yourselves and me and many people who would be listening to you have already read the metaphysics. We get it. We get it up here. This is a moment where applying it is what's so helpful. For instance, this woman, Elle McPherson, she had cancer, and she what she went through in the whole wellness world with that. It's exactly what you're saying. It's one thing to know it. It's another, well, this is the story of one person and how she dealt with these things. We've all read the same books by now. We've all listened to the same tapes. This is no longer the era of data collection. It's the era of application. It's the era of practical applicability. That's what I love about the Course in Miracles. It says over and over, this is a very practical course. And that's what I hope the Mystic Jesus does for people too. It's about how do you apply in a practical way the teachings of Jesus with that person in front of you, with that obnoxious person or with that challenging situation. This is the point where it's incumbent upon us as people who want to usher in a world that is survivable, that we learn to apply more deeply the things which by now we all already know. I saw during the break the business about the season of nonviolence and those meditations. I very much want to be part of that.
Absolutely. We will send you an invitation to be a part of that.
Yeah, it looked beautiful.
And we have almost 64 different voices already that want to provide it. And for the folks that are just catching up to that, it's a 10 minute or so meditation. But it's there to, and New Thought Media Network, we really believe we can raise the consciousness of the collective consciousness of humanity through shared practice. And if we can get 3 people on a call at a time, or 300 on a call at a time, we're raising the vibration. And
well, you said at the beginning of the show, it works if you work it. It's not just we really believe. It's more than I really believe. If I drop this, it's gonna and it fall. If I just release it, it's gonna fall. It's not that I really believe in gravity. It's that gravity is.
Right.
So it's not like I really believe we can affect the collective consciousness. It is that all minds are joined, and whenever 2 people agree on something, it's a done deal. And I think that's really important for those of us who are ministers and teachers and stuff to demonstrate that. I remember somebody once saying about something we were doing, well, we're not curing cancer here. I said, we sure are.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Dear friend, all of us, Celeste Frazier's on the line.
So Robin and I talk about this all the time. Go.
Oh, okay, there it is. Dear friend, Celeste Frazier's on the line, just saying hello to everyone, and loves that Marianne's putting the Course in Miracles in the forefront of the 21st century readers and seekers. Revolutionized her life and relationship in a big time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It's we've been saying it here on this program a lot. Now is the time. Now is the time to make all of this real for ourselves in a tangible way, not just real in our minds, but in a tangible way. So before we do run out of time, and I know you've got to scoot out maybe just a little early here on this today. So before we run out of time, what's the vision for you? What's the next? I don't want you to give up any projects you're keeping quiet or anything. But overall, if you were to look at the future of New Thought, what do you see your part in it all, and where are we all kind of headed?
Well, I think that we're in a period of processing. I think everybody's just shocked by where we find ourselves as a country and as a species. I don't think it's that people are apathetic. I think people sort of can't believe what's going on. And so the activism now is within our minds. Martin Luther King said, don't take our spiritual passivity for weakness. We are spiritually active. He said, don't take our material passivity for weakness. So I'm doing what everybody I know is doing. I'm just trying to figure out what I've been through, taking responsibility, atoning, forgiving. And I know that as I find myself more and more able to align with the best in me and emerge from the past forgivingly, then the next steps will be made available. But right now, this isn't a moment of, next I'm going to, I mean, there are little intimations, but I'm where everybody else is. Dear God, show me how I can best serve.
Yeah.
Show me how I can be a better person. The Course in Miracles said,
I was just going to say, you remind me of that statement by Dr. King that says, take the first step with confidence and assurity, even if you don't see the second step. But once you get clear and centered, if you take the first one, they'll appear. I love that.
Yeah, God doesn't deliver to you a 6-month prospectus. He delivers to you the wisdom and the knowledge of who he needs you to be in this moment, on this day. And what he needs you to forgive and what he needs you to atone for is every bit as important as what he needs you to do 6 weeks from now. And until you do that inner work, the inner work is as important as the outer work. And that's really what we're all about. Because of the reasons that we've said, you have to have new thought before you can have a new world. And so I'm in that sense where everybody I know is. It's like nobody knows what's going on here. And we don't know what's going to it's going to be very different. We're going to have a new president. Things are going on in the world. We all just have to be very psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually sober, observant, listening, and available to this moment.
It reminds me of that verse in the Bible that says, trust in the Lord and wait. The impetus, the energy, the spirit will move you when it needs to be moved.
Right.
You got to get centered and trust in the Lord.
Yeah. It's not like you're just sitting in your chair praying is a less important or powerful moment. Sometimes the power is in the doing, sometimes the power is in the being. And it's a whole systems breakdown we're going through. We need a whole systems response. Every aspect of ourselves is involved in bringing forth the new. So somebody knowing exactly what they're going to do is no less important than trying to be who they need to be. And that's where we all are, I think, right now.
Beautiful. Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Before we let you go, anything that we didn't ask that you were really hoping we would?
Well, I wouldn't say I was hoping you would, but something that I'd like your listeners to know. We're always told that when you have a dream, every character in the dream is an aspect of yourself. And I hope that people find in this book that every aspect in the story and the life of Jesus is an aspect of ourselves. That there was the man who lived 2,000 years ago, and there is his journey that each and every one of us embody and take right here, right now. And so this is not in any way to disparage the historical Jesus, but it is to say that the mystic Jesus, the Jesus that is alive and brought forth into the world anytime our hearts are open in love, is no less significant. And is very much the revelation, as it were, of 21st century evolutionary possibility. So I hope that people will feel in this book that there's something about his life, not only before, but in you right now, that is expanded and illumined. That's my hope that people get from reading the book.
Beautiful. Thank you.
What better time than at Christmas, right?
Exactly. And that's what the cover looks like, folks. Make sure you're getting the original and the authentic version. And we have put links in the show notes and in the description of today's program, as well as in the chat, to all of Marianne's social areas, social media outlets and to a link for the book as well. If you have any concerns getting there, just touch base with us here at New Thought Media Network. We'll make sure you get to the right link. So, Marianne, thank you so much for being with us. We know you are always in, it seems like you are always into so many wonderful things to bring forward this light and this truth onto the planet. So we want to thank you again, and hope that we've done a good enough job. You'll come back and join us again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful being with you. It was an honor. Thank you. And good luck to you. We're all in this together.
Yes. Amen.
Much love to you guys. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now. Folks, we'll be back again next week. Until then, peace and richest blessings. Bye now. Oh, I lost my exit video though.